friends, Emily from Handmade with Love here, and today I have the honor of participating in Amber and Rachel's YouTube Hop. So it's 12 days of Christmas YouTube Hop, and each day somebody is going to be posting a different video on their YouTube channel. It's going to either be like a process video or a tutorial showing you how to make something Christmas themed. So today is day 3, so if you have not seen day 1, which was posted on December 1st, make sure to go and check that out because Rachel and Amber explain the whole process of this YouTube hop as well as some of the projects that the girls are going to be making. We have an amazing lineup of women who are just so talented and so inspiring, so I'm really happy that they asked me to be a part of it as well. I'm going to link everybody else down below, and make sure to check out the schedule for the days that they'll be posting because you definitely do not want to miss some of the projects. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these really fun type of shaker ornaments. So this is the base for it, and then it's actually going to be planted onto a snowflake ornament, and they're really cute. You can use them as embellishments, or you can gift them to your pals to use as actual ornaments on their tree. I just love that idea, and I think it's so special to include somebody all the way from a different country or a different state into your Christmas tradition. So for this video, I'm actually going to be using these glitter ornaments. I picked these up from Walmart, but they have similar ones at both Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, and pretty much all other craft stores. I mean, they're pretty basic, and you can usually find them in a bunch of different colors as well. So you can even pick out different colors to match the collection that you're using, or to match the theme of somebody else's Christmas tree if you're making them for your friends. So there's about 20 of these in a pack, and it's only $3 from Walmart, so it's super affordable, and they're pretty easy to find because they're very generic type of ornaments, right? Like, they're not anything special. But we get to make these beautiful and make these special for somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and pull one out, and all of the ties are kind of tangled at the moment, so I'm just going to pull a couple of these out and show them to you up close so that you can see just how glittery they are. They're just super sparkly and fun, and they really come to life whenever you add on your embellishments on top. So for the base of these, like I said, we're going to be making like a little shaker embellishment. I was super inspired by Cher Crane as well as Adriana Alvarez to make these. These are very, very similar to embellishments that they've done in the past, and they always look so pretty on a project, and so I wanted to kind of emulate that and make it my own. So I'm obviously going to be using Christmas paper, so let me show you what I'm using. So first I have this specialty acetate paper. On the front side there are silver stars, and on the back side front side is gold, back side is silver stars. So it's really pretty, and it's reversible so that you can use it with whatever collection matches. And then for this paper that I'm going to be using, this is from Hey Santa. It's called City Sidewalks. I just love the pink glow of this and all the white and the green on here. It's just so pretty, and I love the way that it looks with this acetate on top. So you won't need to use the whole paper, and in fact you can even use scraps if you have a couple of Christmas papers that you really want to be able to use up. You can definitely use scraps for that because we're just going to be cutting out a few circles. I have a tool that I'm using. This is by EK Tools. It is their circle cutter, so it comes in 2 different sizes. And I believe you can actually get this from Hobby Lobby. I'm very fortunate because this was gifted to me by a pen pal who knows that I love to make embellishments and that I love circles. So luckily I was able to get that from her, but you can always use a circle die if you don't have this, or if you have a large enough circle punch, that would probably work as well. So I'm going to be using my circle cutter because it just makes it a little bit easier, but how it works is there's just a little tool on here that you can rotate around. There is like a little notch on here so that this pops off, and you can add it onto your bigger circle, or you can reverse the side. So the blade will be either on the outside of the circle, or it will be on the inside of the circle. So I'm going to be using the smaller one today because I find that this one fits the best on the snowflake ornament that we're using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop this onto the outer side of the circle, just like that, so that way the blade is facing the outside. If you're doing this with a die, you will need to have 2 separate sizes of die, so a bigger circle and then a smaller inner circle. So you want to go ahead and cut out your outer circle first. And first I'm going to be cutting through the acetate because this is actually going to be the base of my shaker embellishment, and then I will be using the paper from Hey Santa as the actual ring. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out these circles, and I'm probably going to fast forward it just a little bit so that way you guys can just watch and see the process of how I do this. Okay, so now I have all of the circles cut for this little project. I also have an extra circle, so if you want to, you can save this as well and use it for a different type of embellishment. This is an example of how I used the smaller inner circles, just so that way they didn't go to waste. I just added some stitching around them and added some smaller embellishments. They still fit really well on the actual snowflake, so it looks really cute on top of them. Alright, so now that we have our circles cut out, you can kind of see how it's going to start coming together. So this is going to be the actual base of the, the top of the embellishment. This is going to be the back, and then there's going to be sequins on the inside of it once we add those in there. So before I do anything else, I am just going to go ahead and add some stitching to the ring circle. This of course is optional. If you don't have a sewing machine, then you can skip this part, or you can even do some different types of faux stitching. You can either draw on it, or sometimes certain die cuts have things that will emboss the center. So you could definitely use that, but I'm going to add some stitching just to kind of make it look a little bit more sparkly and a little bit more extra. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I am back, and this has been very messily stitched, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of get the picture either way. So now we're going to actually start assembling this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the inner circle on the back side, or on the front side of the acetate, so that it looks like this. And I just use hot glue for this step. You could definitely use like red line tape if you want to, or you can use like a tape runner if that's what you prefer. But I just like using hot glue on these types of projects because I know that it will last a little bit longer and not fall apart. So I'm going to get a new hot glue stick and then go ahead and add that on there. And I feel like the trick with this is that you cannot press on the glue right after you put it on there. I usually just give it a second to get a little bit tacky, so that way the glue doesn't go all over the sides of the acetate or melt the plastic. Because this is plastic, it will melt if the glue is hot enough. So I just kind of give it a second. You don't want it to be all the way dry, but just wait a second before you put it on, just so that way it doesn't melt the actual plastic, and it's a little bit more mendable. Then you can press it down, make sure that everything is sticking correctly. Alright, and then at this point I will just trim it up. If sometimes it's really hard to line everything up correctly, especially since you're using a clear piece of paper, or if you're using vellum, it's also difficult just because you can't see it exactly on the sides. So I'm just kind of going around and trimming up those edges a little bit before we finish the assembly of this. Alrighty, and now that we have that done, it's time to add the actual foam to this. So there's a couple different options for how you can do this. How I normally do it is I actually get foam sheets from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. They're really, really cheap, usually like 50 cents or sometimes cheaper. And then I'll do the same process that I used for cutting out the actual shapes for cutting out the foam. So I'll just make sure that I have an inner circle of foam. I did 2 layers on this one. I think that that works the best so that your sequins can kind of move and make the shaker noise. But you know, it's kind of up to you how big your sequins are. If you're just using glitter in there, then 1 layer would be fine. So that's what I normally do, but I actually use my foam sheets up because I make my own little foam dots and little foam squares. So I did not realize that I did not have extra. So I'm just going to be kind of cutting these out. And I think that this works well because not everybody has foam sheets just lying around, but most people do have some sort of dimensional object or pop dots or these foam squares. I know a lot of people get the foam squares from Dollar Tree. So you can definitely use those. You just might have to do some trimming, just like I'm going to have to do on this. So I'm just going to cut these into smaller pieces just so that way it's a little bit more manageable. But the idea is that you just want to go all the way around your circle, making sure that your squares don't have any gaps between them, because if there's gaps then it would let out the sequins or the glitter that you're going to be putting inside. So once you get the glue on there too, you can also just push them a little bit closer together to make sure that everything stays in place. And then for this one, I'm going to be doing 2 layers. So I'm going to be doing this one time and then I'm going to be adding more squares on top. So I'll probably let you guys just go ahead and watch this process sped up a little bit. I know that it's going to be a little bit repetitive, so I'm sorry for that. I wish that I had kept up some foam sheets, but we're not perfect. We are just making do with what we have. We are crafters. That's how it works. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up and let you guys watch the process. So I have finished adding all of the foam to my little circle, and it's really important at this step before you glue on your final piece to make sure that there are no little tiny gaps poking out. With this method of adding foam and dimension, it can be a little bit tricky because you want to make sure that your squares are close enough together to where they don't let anything through. So just take a look at it from the side angle and make sure that there are no holes, because it will be really hard to fix once you actually add on your last piece. So for mine, I just closed up all of the holes. You can see I did have to cut some smaller pieces to make sure that nothing got out, which it can be a little tedious, but in the end it's got a beautiful result. So I think that these are worth it. But you can also add a different type of paper to the back. So I'm going to be using acetate like I mentioned, but if you want a different effect, you can also use a different paper. So for this one, I use the same paper that I used for the little ring on the front, and I think that this looks really pretty too. It also just adds a little bit more color to the embellishment and kind of makes it tie in with whatever you decide to put on top of it. But for this one, I really think it's going to be really pretty with the stars on the acetate to just keep it the same as the actual acetate layer. So do acetate on the back as well. So once again, it's going to be the same process for how we added on the acetate to the front paper. You want to add your hot glue to the foam and never the actual acetate because of how hot it can get and melt the plastic. So I'm going to add on the hot glue here. I'm going to give it just a couple seconds before I put that piece of acetate on, and then if any of the edges are hanging off, I'm just going to use some scissors and trim it up to make sure that everything looks flush and consistent throughout the embellishment. Alright, and then after you have assembled everything, added your sequins, which I did forget to mention, so make sure that you add your sequins before you glue on your acetate. I have done that quite a few times, and you don't want to waste your paper by not putting any sequins in there. You will be very disappointed. So make sure you remember the most important part and then glue on your back piece. So it does look a little bit janky from the back, so if you want to, you can always cut out another little outer circle, which is probably what I'm going to do in just a moment, and then add that to the back, just so that way the foam isn't going to be as visible and nobody will actually see that you had to spend all of your time working on this hideous foam. So yeah, definitely definitely not too pretty on the back, but from the front it does look super beautiful, and I know that I personally would love to receive an embellishment like this because you can just tell that it took a lot of time and thought and effort. So yeah, and then I'm going to do the outer circle, and then I'll come back to show you guys how we put this on the snowflake and how I choose to decorate it. Alright, so I did zoom you in just a little bit so that way you can see me decorate this, but this is what it looks like once it is completed. Now obviously if you're going to be gluing this onto the snowflake or some sort of ornament, then you don't really need to do the back, but I did it just so that way you guys could see what it looks like when it's, you know, officially finished. And yeah, I just think it looks so cute, and if you want to plan to send it as an embellishment just as it is, then I probably would put something here just to cover up the foam. So yeah, I'm just really happy with it, and I think that the colors and the sequin mix are perfect for the actual paper. So now we're going to go to the next step, which is gluing it onto the actual ornament. Now when you do this, you want to make sure that you know where your string is, because I've actually made a couple of them and my string was like all the way over here. So yeah, just make sure that you know where that is before you actually glue it on, and then make sure you have your paper in the area where you want it so that everything is upright if you're using that type of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, and from this angle looking straight down at it, you can't really see all of the gold peeking out, but trust me, it looks so cute when it's hanging on a tree. I actually made a couple of these and I hung them up just before I have them ready to send off. I just kind of have them as a space there on my tree, and they look so cute, especially with the sequins, and every once in a while you'll hear them just jingling like that. So yeah, it's a really fun way to customize your tree and make it a little bit more personal. So I'm going to add my glue to this outer ring, just so that way you can actually see it in the acetate. You want to remember that whatever you put behind this, you're going to be able to see. So you will see the snowflake a little bit, but once we add on all of the embellishments and our decorations, it won't really be that noticeable. Alrighty. And it is on the snowflake. Also keep in mind that the snowflake, whenever you add the glue, it will stick. So if you're doing it on a piece of paper, just be careful because the glue will kind of seep through some of the holes in the snowflake and get onto whatever you're doing it on. I'm just doing it on my mat, which most of the time I'm able to pull the hot glue off, but you guys are probably looking at this and you're like, girl, that is a hot mess. You were lying to yourself. But I promise, usually I'm able to pull any hot glue off. So I'm going to go ahead and start decorating this on camera for you guys. I'm probably going to speed it up just a little bit and add some music in there, but I will be back to show you the end result. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy the process of me decorating it. You guys, so this is what it looks like when it's all done. I actually kept the decorating really simple, so I'm sorry if that was boring to watch, but I just kind of went with it looking like a wreath, I guess. So I just added a little bow at the top, a sentiment down here at the bottom. I added some candy canes, and then just to throw off the symmetry of it a little bit, I added dots in different spots. I'm not the biggest fan of symmetry. I think it looks too precise. So I wanted this to look pretty whimsical. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this embellishment video, and I hope that you will check out some of the other girls in this YouTube hop. They are so talented and they came up with absolutely amazing ideas. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining my channel today and watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!